Broadcasting live from SETI Alpha 6 in the Andromeda Galaxy, this is Mr. C.
Yay, it's a new day, it's a fresh start, it's a new beginning, the sky's the limit. So you should have your journals now, I think they've been handed out. So, and you know the drill, you know the do-nows. You should have a couple of white sheets, lesson planners, huh? You're used to it. Homework goes in them, of course. I'm not going to review all the do-nows every day. Just today, and I think at the start of a new quarter, it's good to do that. So, and then if ever you have homework to take out, you take it out automatically, a red pen if you need it. Today's not the case. Okay, you've got your journal at the ready. I'm going to make a lot of comments about the journals. I spent all yesterday looking at journals, so I saw a lot of journal entries. So anyway, and just be prepared to write on one of your white sheets. So anyway, we have a new quarter that has started to roll. So what are you going to tell yourself this quarter about this quarter? As Laura says, tell yourself, I can do this. I can get an A or a B. So it's important what you tell yourself. And then ask God to help you. I can do all things through Christ, who keeps on giving me strength. Some of you know that verse from Philippians 4:13. What a wonderful verse. It's a present tense in the Greek. And some of you are going, oh, what's that, present tense? Here's the way that works. Pardon me. It means he continually gives you strength. I can do all things through Christ who keeps on constantly giving me strength, making strength available to me. That is one of my favorite New Testament verses, and it's available to you. So his ever-present strength. So anyway, you've got Laura's tips, you've got my teaching tips, you've got Mr. Gilbert encouraging you. The creator of the universe is helping you. Wow, you've got a lot going for you. And I predict success for this quarter. Now on your white sheet, here's what I'd like you to do. Would you write down 3 things that you've learned, kind of best practices that will help you be your very best as a student in any class, not just science. So on your white sheet, 3 things, please, everybody writing. 3 things that come to mind that are best practices, tips from Mr. C, from Laura C, from Mr. G, from any of your other teachers that will help you be successful in all of your classes. And then I'll hit just a few things that I think will help. So writing. Another 30 seconds. If you've got 3 already, then go for a 4th and perhaps a 5th. Alrighty, see if you have any of these. Goals, of course. So how many of you wrote goals down? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay, I see all those thumbs. Goals. And what do those goals need to look like? What do they need to look like? Short, doable, challenging. Oh yeah, I remember those. Understandable, written down, somewhere where you can see them on a regular basis, somewhere where you can see them. Then those goals will come true. They will actually happen. And then in any class, of course, pay attention. So good students are good listeners. They don't have to be entertained to learn. So Laura told you that you have a built-in curiosity. And you do. You've got a built-in curiosity. In a way, you can't help but learn. I don't think you have to be reminded, cajoled, begged, bribed, coerced, dragged along. Please, could you just learn a little bit? Babied. But instead, you guys have a built-in curiosity. You are sponges. You soak up information that you want to learn. So you can't help, you can't stop good students from learning under any circumstances. They're going to learn. You're going to learn. So anyway, I'm just reminding you of some of these things at the start of the second quarter. Why is that? Because Mr. G, Mr. C want you to be successful. We want to do everything we can to help you be successful. And one of the things is we know you're driven by the natural curiosity that God has put into you. And then when you're using it, your curiosity on a regular basis, as long as it glorifies God, and that's the number one reason you're on the planet, to glorify God. So then that curiosity is going to lead you all over the place to some really neat opportunities. In fact, here's what I'd like to do. You don't have to do this. It's an option. But in your journals, first thing to enter in your journals. Again, I'm going to make comments about journals and what I saw in all of your journals and the things that I wanted to see in your journals. But first, somewhere in your journal, and some of you use the little tabs so you can find the sections really easily. I recommend those. Way to go, those of you who had the little tabs so you could find things easily. Find a section in your journal where you could have several pages available to you. Okay? And I want you to title this, oh, that's a quaint little title, Curiosity Corner. Oh, cool. I like it. I like it. I hope you do. Curiosity Corner. Kind of a little section or a corner of your journal where, when questions come to mind, it doesn't have to be in science, but it could be. I hope there's some science questions. You just write down your questions. I wonder about this. I wonder about that. And by the way, the greatest scientists, but not just the greatest scientists, all humans ask questions. Your brain was designed to. So as you have questions, just write them down in the curiosity corner. And the next time I go through the journals, I'll look for those. Now, it's an option, but if I see them, is it going to cause me to perhaps or probably give you more points on your journal check? Oh yeah, definitely it will. And I'm about ready to move into the journal section and tell you what I'm looking for, and the next time I look, what I'm going to look for. So anyway, of course, assignments. What about assignments? When assignments come to mind, what should you think of? How about OTAs? Oh yeah, on-time assignments. It's a big deal in all classes. You get more points if you turn assignments in on time. If they're NC, neat complete assignments that are OTA, on time. And of course, the all-star assignment tip, RRR. Review, and you will remember. I'm not kidding, it's a secret. If you overlearn things, you will way more easily recall them. Now, as I go on my walks in the morning, I was doing it this morning as I was on my walk, I'm trying to recall a few Bible verses that I'm going over. So I go over them and over them and over them. You know what? They're starting to be kind of in concrete, in cement, in my brain. That's a figure of speech. I don't have cement in my brain. Okay? So anyway, just that you overlearn them and then you remember them. So anyway, so that's really, really, really important. So, and then two things that are your best friends. Your LPs, your lesson planners are one of your best friends. It will serve you well. A lesson planner, will make you a great student, or at least a good student. You kind of can't help it, where you write everything down in your lesson planner that's due, that's coming up, that you want to remember. You write it down. It keeps you organized. So really important. Lesson planner. Second best friend, really, really important, your journals. Oh, baby. And you know that I have not just recommended, not an option. It's an expectation that every day in science class, you use your journal. Now, here are my expectations. Okay? And this was an expectation the first quarter. But as I analyzed your journals, I wasn't as picky as I'm going to be at the end of the second quarter when I look over your journals. I'll get to that in a minute. So as you write in your journal, write concisely, semi-neatly. Most of you wrote neat enough so you could look at it and go, I know what language that is. Good, really good. So you write down, and when you look at it later, you go, okay, yeah, I know what I was writing. I recall that now. And then you abbreviate everything if you can. Cut it short. Don't write down a, and, write little symbols. I write symbols, just a one symbol for and. I never write a or the. It's your journal. You're writing notes. So abbreviate. And then, though, I would really try to organize it. Try to keep your notes in kind of like one spot where you're writing about, let's say, it's Newton's laws, 7th graders, or photosynthesis, 8th graders. Okay? You keep everything under that topic, right there under photosynthesis, right there under Newton's laws. Okay? Now, as I was looking through your journals, here's what I was looking for this time. I was looking for the big ideas, the myths, the most important facts. So I was looking to see if you had them from each lecture. And by the way, some of you did this, well done. You had the date out on the margin of the lecture, or you had the number of the lecture. Even better. But probably the date is great too, though, in the margin. What was the date of the lecture? So tomorrow's date, I think it's the 12th. So I'm taping this on Sunday for Monday. So I think Monday is the 12th. So anyway, so all of that, keep it concise, abbreviate. Okay, kind of neat so you can read what you wrote. So now it was worth 20 points this time. So some of you have already seen up on RenWeb the score you got. You had to really mess up to not get 20 points. Most people got 20 points this time. Now it's probably not, that's not going to happen at the end of the second quarter. Okay? So, but I was very, very impressed with some of the journals. So neat, so organized, so complete. And I'll be looking more for that the second quarter. So anyway, they'll be worth 30 to 35 points. And again, I'll be looking them over more carefully at the end of the second quarter. So use them today as I go into really what we're covering in 7th grade and what we're covering in 8th grade. Now, just a quick little break to turn it over to Mr. Gilbert, and then I'll be back with 7th graders and then with 8th graders. So it won't affect you 7th and 8th graders. So a quick little break. Be right back. Okay, 7th grade, I'm back for you. You've got your journal out. You've got the date in the margin, right? So you know it's Monday. And this is good news. Really, really good news, because here's the story. In a little bit, I've got a really cool video I want you to see. I think you're going to like it. So, and I'd like you to just watch it. You don't have to take any notes on it. So, and I'll remind you about that in just a little bit. Okay, 7th grade. Want to review just a few expectations with you. So, these are not options. I expect you to listen during lectures, not chat with each other. I expect you to write in your journals, not an option. And when Mr. G puts a signal on or starts talking, I expect you to listen to him. Now, I'm instructing him to do the following things, okay? So, number 1, whenever there's a clarification needed at the break, raise your hand to ask him questions. He'll ask you, do you have any questions? Raise your hand. Some of you have said you wanted a clarification time. That's what that break is for, okay? When you don't understand things. Okay. Now, I'm telling them this, Mr. Gilbert, regarding behavior. Here's what I'm instructing him to do. If there are students that continue to talk, then I'm first instructing him to move you to a new seating assignment spot in the seating chart to see if that works. Itchy head. So you're moving to a new spot. And then if that doesn't work, here's what I'm instructing them to do. To bump up kind of what I want you to do, the correction for you that I want you to do. I'm going to put you in an IZ. He's going to put you in an IZ, but it's me. So I've instructed him to do this. What's an IZ? It's an isolation zone. So he's going to stick you in a corner. So you're all by yourself. Okay? And you can hardly see around the corner. And other people can't really see you. So, and you won't want to mess up back there, because that'll lead to the next stage. Now, most of you don't need to hear this. Your behavior's been great. Congratulations, way to go. But I've got to emphasize this, and the start of the quarter is a great place to do it. So what's the next stage after that if behavior is not changing? Okay. Then I'm instructing him to do advisory detentions with students who are misbehaving. Advisory detentions. Take 10 minutes away in advisory. What do you mean advisory? End of the period, when you go out for break, you stay inside. I did this last year. I did this the year before. I did this the last bunch of years in the classroom when I was teaching. So students lose advisory time if the new seating chart didn't help, the isolation zone didn't help, then advisory time. Then after that, lunchtime. You can't do that. Oh, yeah. That was one of my biggies. You lose lunchtime. Where you're hanging out with your friends? Mm-mm. You're eating by yourself in my science room. Okay? Not fun. Nope. Not fun. So you don't want to do that. And then I trot out the really heavy weapon after that. So if none of that's working, okay, with Mr. Gilbert, then I'm instructing him to send you to Mr. Bynum. So he'll have a little chat with you, and then you get an after-school detention. So it's where you come in for, 30 minutes or something. I don't know when the after-school detentions are. But anyway, so don't want to have to do any of those things, but I'm just pointing them out that they are available in our just a list of things that we can do, strategies. We don't want to have to use them. So we want to just report Oh, that student is so well behaved. So they're great listeners. They use their journals all the time during lectures. So they are just model students. So anyway, go for it. Those are the expectations, not options. So I expect you to do it. Okay, I've got a quiz for you tomorrow, and I'm going to review for it right now, like I always do. Like, you know how on Wednesday and Thursday before a Friday quiz, I review. So 7th grade, your quiz tomorrow is going to be on Isaac Newton and just 3 of his laws. You already know 2 of the laws. First, a few things about Isaac Newton. So you've got these in your journal already. If you can find that place in your journal on Isaac Newton, one of the greatest, if not the greatest scientist who ever lived. Why do you say that? I'll tell you in a minute. Find your journal spot on Isaac Newton. I don't know where it is. Okay, start a new page. I didn't write anything down before. Okay, write a new page. Okay, Isaac Newton. I-S-A-A-C Newton. N-E-W-T-O-N. Isaac Newton in your journal. Just a few things about him. He was a brilliant scientist. One of the smartest scientists who ever lived. Where did he go to university? Well, he was English, so you might want to put that down. He was English, and he went to the University of Cambridge. It's like going to MIT, Harvard, in the U.S., Caltech, so Stanford, top universities in the United States for sciences, engineering. He went to Cambridge. In fact, listen to this. I love this story. So while he was a student at Cambridge, he was so poor, he had to clean fellow students' rooms to make enough money to pay tuition and probably to pay for his dorm room. Okay? So at Cambridge. So he graduates Cambridge, gets advanced degrees, and he becomes a professor at Cambridge. I think it's irony. So I love that story. What an amazing story. So he just worked awful hard, and he was really gifted, really smart. So he used the scientific method. You'd want to put that down in your journal. One of the first scientists to use the scientific method. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. He was a member of the Royal Society, the top scientists in the world. He became the president of the Royal Society. He became famous because he was such a brilliant scientist. I mean, people would see him walking by, probably in London. I think he ended up living in London. He had made a lot of money, and was quite famous. People would see him and go, "There goes Isaac Newton. That's Isaac Newton. Dr. Newton. Really smart." Okay? You just see him and go, "Wow, Isaac Newton." So, anyway, something else. He invented a lot of things, but one of his most famous inventions was a mirrored telescope or a reflecting telescope. Kind of like I've got in the back of the room behind the human body chart. If you look down the tube, it's got a mirror in it. It's a reflecting telescope. Reflects light into a lens and then magnifies it. So he invented the reflecting telescope. I'm trying to take my time so you can get that in your journal. Brilliant, used a scientific method, member of the Royal Society from England, invented a lot of things, including the reflecting telescope. Now, you saw a video and all of that, so it should go, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember all of this now. Yeah, I kind of remember this." So your quiz tomorrow is on his first law of motion. Do you remember what it is? So it was on lesson summary 4, maybe. So an object at rest will continue at rest, not move unless it's acted upon by a force, a push or a pull. That's a force. You might stick force in your journal. A push or pull, a force. Push, pull. That's a force in science. So an object at rest is going to stay at rest and not move unless it's pushed or pulled. Newton's first law of motion. Okay? So he also said an object that's moving will keep moving in a straight line and at the same speed or velocity unless it's acted upon by a force, of course. So if it's moving, it'll keep moving in a straight line at the same speed. Now, that's where there's no other forces, like gravity or like air that would push on it, like in a vacuum, which you know about. So actually, the atmosphere is a force. It pushes on things, slows things down that are moving through it, like airplanes, rockets. So it's a force. His other law of motion that a lot of you already know about, that I'm going to ask you about, is the universal law of gravity. It's where all objects in the universe pull on every other object, depending on how much mass they have and how close they are to each other, their distance from each other. It's the universal, because it's throughout the universe, the universal law of gravitation. You could abbreviate that. UNIV, LAW, GRAV. There, I abbreviated it. Newton's universal law of gravitation. All objects in the universe pull or attract every other object, more than others. If they've got more mass, they pull harder. And if they're closer to other objects, they pull harder. So their distance and their mass are the two big variables to the universal law of gravitation. Did I give you enough time to get all of that in your journal? Okay. Newton's universal law of gravitation. Then I want to show you Newton's law of action-reaction. Here's what he said. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Every action in one way has a reaction, equal amount of force in the other direction. Action, reaction. Now I have an action-reaction machine right here in my hand. It's an action-reaction machine. Any idea what it is? Action-reaction machine. Right here. So here it is. Action-reaction machine. Okay? Action-reaction machine. I have a rocket. This is a rocket, really, isn't it? So air comes out. That's the action this way. And the reaction will be the other way. Action, reaction. All right, here it goes. So I'm going to let it go. Air's going to rip out that way. Action, and cause a reaction the other way. Now, I don't think it'll knock over the camera. So, and this is the way a rocket works. So here we go. Action, reaction. Noise, as they say in Australia. Nice. Noise. Okay? Action-reaction machine. And so are rockets. Now, here's what I'd like to do, and then Mr. Gilbert will answer any questions for you here at the end of the period. I've got a little video for you on another action-reaction machine. What is it? It's the rocket that sent the space shuttle up to the space station. And you're going to watch a space shuttle launch. I can't remember what the weight is. A whole bunch of million pounds are just thrown into space. And they've got to get going at what kind of speed? They've got to get going at orbital velocity, or 17,500 miles an hour. From 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in about 9 minutes, 8 or 9 minutes. Wow. So watch this, and I hope Mr. Gilbert turns up the sound. Then he'll talk to you a little bit, and then you can have a chance to review Newton's laws. These three laws: action, reaction, For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The universal law of gravity. All objects in the universe have a pull on every other object. And Newton's first law of motion. When an object's at rest, it'll continue not moving unless it's acted upon by a force. It'll continue moving in a straight line at the same velocity until it's acted upon by a force. That's Newton's first law of motion. So at the end of the period, if there's a little time left over, you'll have a chance to review those, either quietly on your own or however Mr. Gilbert would like it. So watch this really cool 3-minute video, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So start the countdown.